All right, well, one of the things I've learned about this FLIR 1 is it needs to go through kind of a warm-up cycle. So I've plugged it in to the phone, turned it on, I let it sit a couple minutes running before I came over here. This is those wall switches that I've put in a previous video and done a lot of work here. So let's start on the right here. See, it didn't change calibration much that time. The color stayed about the same. Now, I took the two wires and twisted them together and then put them under the head of the screw. So there's no voltage drop or heat buildup inside the switch itself, which is how it was wired before. You see the color in the wires is pretty uniform. There's the nut right there. It was a little loose, but the wires were twisted together nicely, so I cranked it on there really well. But they're pretty uniform, and they're not really that hot. They've been running for about 45 minutes now. So you look at the wall to get an idea of the temperature in here. You know, 66, 67 degrees or so. And that nut, you know, I don't know, maybe 10 degrees hotter. And when I touch it with my finger, it's not cold, but there's no heat to it at all. So I consider that good. Now here's the other side. Let's see. You can see the wires come together right here under the screw head. I did the same thing. Twisted them together, put them under there, under the screw head nice and tight. And so there's no heat buildup in the switch or voltage drop. Now it's the same thing. Temperatures are, well, that one wire might be a little hotter. 85, so it's up 20 degrees instead of 10 degrees. I might look at that later, but it's not, see, here we go. Yep, see, the calibration stayed the same because I let this thing kind of warm up. But anyway, I don't know what that 20 degrees is, but it's just not that hot. 80 degrees for wiring is just not very warm. So anyway, I'll look into that some more, but I think it's still in good shape. Now one thing I did is in between here, it's ironic, the two drywall screws holding in this piece of plywood that's in the center here are kind of warm. I'm not sure why that is. But you see this rectangle, you can barely make it out. And that's the plywood. And what I did was I squirted foam between the plywood and this rotary switch over here. And I squirted in expanding foam between the box on the right and this plywood. So it's all filled in. The other night I put my hands, I'll show you where I put my hand. I put my hand right in front of that where the plywood was, and those gaps was blowing cold air on my hands. We had a 10-mile-an-hour wind or so last night, blowing cold air right on my hands. So this thing was leaking profusely. So you can see there's one wire back there. Let's take a look. It's a little warmer than the rest, but you know, it's just not that hot. 90. Well, that's 30 degrees above. So, all right, I'll look at that and find out if there's a reason for that that's important. But this thing's been running for 45 minutes at 1500 watts on that, on the space heater plugged in right there. I might check that box as well. But it's been running a solid 45 minutes. So I think this side is probably just fine. Nothing real hot in there. $74, $75. Yeah, it's okay. That other wire is a little hot. I don't know why. I'll look into it as soon as I'm done shooting this. And the foam's, the expanding foam is still curing, but I think it's pretty much done. I'd scrape it out after about half an hour of expansion so I don't have to, you know, take a chisel or a frickin' knife to it. So Now it's sealed, all the holes in it are sealed, and it's pretty much, you can tell, a uniform color relative to the wall. It might be a little warm with this heat source here and a heat source on the other side, but it was stone cold before. So we're at least holding that cold air back, and I think that'll work really good. I'll put a piece of drywall in here and finish it, and I think we'll be in better shape. But that was a lot of wind yesterday coming through that hole. It was pretty amazing. So the other thing I did while I had the foam can, I went and bought a brand new can of expanding foam, is I foamed. Now that's a very low draw wall adapter, but you can see it's a little warmer. So down here, where the floor meets the wall, you see it's not as blue, because that's all foam. I filled that gap in, but you can see that the rest of it's all blue. So the foam is, I don't know, what, 2 hours old? You can tell that there's a difference in color, though. That was blue before, all along there. There's the bottom of the door, and there's foam all along this edge. You can see it's not blue anymore. There's a tiny gap where I didn't put any foam right there, and it's blue. The other thing is right along here. It's not, well, it depends on the calibration of this thermal device. Here we go. Let's see what happens. It's not nearly as blue as it was. It was dark blue. Yeah, I open my mouth and it changes, but okay, if I hold it right there, you can see there's a big difference. It used to be dark blue along that whole seam, but I filled it with foam and it's in pretty darn good shape. So the only questionable area is this corner here. So that gap right there where the crosshair are, I'll have to put some there. Up the center, I can't do much about because that's drywall right there. But that helped. Foam, as I've learned, doesn't conduct heat very well. It's a great insulator. So I doubt it'll make any difference, but there's some spots of foam I've put filling these holes on the door frame. Oh, there's one. Kind of fills behind the trim there. Yeah, you can see it's a little bit warmer. Yeah, there's another one. The foam's, maybe it's just the temperature of the foam because it's curing. I don't know. I'll know more tomorrow when it sits overnight. But try to seal this all off, and then once I level off the foam, I'll take it and put the trim up and then caulk it. So there won't be any airflow, at least. So anyway, the foam does make a difference. The FLIR one's really helpful. It's just sometimes the resolution's a little funny. But I can tell it's made a difference, and that's good. We need all the difference in this house I can get. All right, well, this is the second part of what I foamed up today, and then I took the nozzle and blew it out with compressed air so I can finish using the can tomorrow or whatever day I want. Anyway, that's it for now. Things are going well. This is a great tool. I'm really happy with it. It's helping and motivating me to get this stuff, sealed up, because it's cold. This place has been 50 degrees inside, and that's just too bloody cold because it leaks out. It leaks out the heat so much, or leaks in the cold, depends on how you look at it. All right, anyway, got a little work to do, but this has already made an improvement. Both of those seams are not nearly as blue as they were. Now I'll have to look at them again after I trim them out so that the trim can fit there to cut off all the excess. We'll see if it's still as doing as well. All right, that's it. See you, bye.